Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you all are having a great Monday afternoon here, the third to last day of January as we flip the calendar into February the 1st. Let me get a quick sip of water here. Today's weather discussion is very different from my previous weather discussions, as I typically focus on the entire United States here. But there's something more significant happening across the West that really has gravitated this discussion away from other areas, especially the Midwest and the Eastern Seaboard. We have a we have a lot to talk about in today's live weather discussion about the West, because as you do know, a lot of you are probably watching this from California. Big atmospheric rivers are going to be impacting our region here in Sacramento, in the Bay Area, as well as Southern California. Especially Southern California could really take a good dousing of rainfall out of this, and even in Northern California. And so as I get things set up here, let's see here. Where was I? Okay. What we're going to be dealing with is not a historic rainmaker by any means. We're not talking about a catastrophic flooding event. I want to make that clear before we really dive into things. But what we're going to be seeing is a very, very strong atmospheric river that will bring a few inches of rainfall in many areas in Central and Southern California. And then this includes also for Northern California, but mainly targeting Central and Southern areas for the second half of the storm event. Then early on, it looks like Northern California, like say north of I-80, north of Santa Rosa, really going to take a hit with quite a bit of rainfall and some really, really strong winds, reaching tropical storm force, perhaps along the coast of northwestern California. So, we're gonna in today's live discussion, we'll be breaking down all those details, and we might look at the lower 48 if there's time in today's discussion. But I'm really focusing in on the Intermountain West, because that's where there is going to be quite a bit of impacts, and this is already making headlines on social media, on mainstream news, even on the Weather Channel, really talking about that this is going to be a fairly high impactful event. And that's why we're doing a live discussion today. And I might be doing more of these leading up to this event. I'll probably have another one out tomorrow, since I'm not doing much in the office then. And so, yeah, let's get right into things. And I want to show you guys something. If you all could invite your friends and family to this. I'm hoping we can get a lot of people here, because this is pretty significant by all means. There's no flood watches out, but I'm guaranteeing probably by tonight we're going to have flood watches out for Northern California, probably for Central California, because of how strong this system is going to be. Let me know if the audio is good, if I should make myself a little louder. I'll probably make myself a little bit louder so y'all can hear me a little bit better. All right, so let's actually switch the scenes and let me get my face out of the way here. Actually, let's go. Yeah, let's do that. All right, so let me bring up our Epic pin here. Just hold on a second. Okay, it's drawing for us. So, as you can see, the water vapor imagery here, of course, we have our first disturbance that is moving into the Pacific Northwest today, even into Northern California. By tonight, That's why some areas, say like maybe Ukiah northward, could start getting some rain. Areas south, though, will likely stay dry for a good chunk of tonight and tomorrow before things kind of deteriorate slightly, ever so slightly, tomorrow night. And it's coming from this system out here in the Pacific. So we have impulse number 1 right here, and then we have another impulse back in here, and this is going to be the one that's going to make a lot of headlines. It doesn't look very strong right now. That's just because the dynamics are just coming into play here for this system. But there's a lot of indications that this is definitely looking to be a pretty substantial event by California standards. So as we play this through here, you can see just how strong this jet is. Now, we're looking at the upper level water vapor imagery. So this is kind of the channel 8 imagery, showing us how much moisture there is. These are more mid-level clouds, but I want you all to pay a little bit of attention further south. See the little ripples through this flow right in here? You can barely make that out right in here. See, there's a little ripple going on by. That is your NPJ, or known as the North Pacific Jet, or the EAJ, and there's a couple of ways you can kind of announce this. NPJ for North Pacific Jet, and EAJ for East Asian Jet, kind of refer to the same thing. They're tied together. And it's basically referring to the jet that cuts across the Pacific here, and this is pretty strong. It has a lot of power behind it, and this is basically a fire hose of air that is aimed directly squared for Central California in the next couple of days, and that's what allows these storms to get spun up because of the dynamics. So we have a system here, and of course we have the system that's already impacting British Columbia, by the way, bringing significant flooding and some snowmelt in that area because temperatures are much warmer than they can be for late January standards. But it's this impulse back here that's going to be impacting California within the next couple of days, and it's all because of this jet stream that is cutting across. It doesn't seem very strong, but there is indications right now that it is over 150 knots right now. That's very intense for a jet to get this far east, and it's all because of the phase locking of the MJO, so the Madden-Julian oscillation playing a important role here, as well as we have other factors like the NAO that is now positive, so that allows an extension to the jet and more troughiness to develop over the western U.S. And we have high latitude blocking that is over Canada, so that allows this jet stream to actually kind of dive southward into Southern California and into the lower 48 in the next couple of weeks or so. So people that live down here in Texas and the Deep South might see more storms, more wetter ones and warmer ones because of how this flow is shaping up of being. So I hope you all are doing great. Chat is not very active, so I'm hoping people are actually tuning in, because we do have a lot to talk about. So actually let's get into the models here, because we have a lot of rain that is coming to our region. So I'll wait for more people to join, and then I will move on. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask those. So, yeah, so let's move forward with this. So, as you all know, we are going to be dealing with quite a bit of rainfall, and that's been advertised in the forecast thus far already. All right, so we're looking at anywhere between about an inch to maybe a couple of inches in many areas, with a few areas like the higher elevations of the coastal range mountains as well as the Sierra foothills and mountains might see as much as, say, 2 to 4 inches of rainfall. The northern Sacramento Valley up towards Redding might see 6 inches of rainfall, perhaps. That's a lot of rainfall in a couple of days, and that's going to lead to a lot of flooding, because when you get that much moisture falling all at once, that is going to really put a lot of testimonies on the larger rivers, the creeks, and also on the stream beds as well, including for the streets as well. Street flooding and urban flooding not out of the question too with this storm. So as we go forward here, this is looking, actually, you know what? Let's kind of back things up and look at the jet stream. So this is the 200 millibar flow from the European model. All right. And what we have here is a very, very strong, well-extended NPJ into the Eastern Pacific. That's aiming right for California. This is not like it's a very wavy one where we see a lot of amplitudinous to the wave pattern. In fact, we have nearly straight zonal flow that is impinging on this jet. So that's why we have winds exceeding, depending on what level of the atmosphere you're looking at, exceeding, in this case, 200 knots. That is over 275 miles an hour. That's a very strong North Pacific jet extension into the Eastern Pacific with split flow that is seen here in the Pacific Northwest, and northwesterly flow into Southern California. And so that's why today a lot of us here, and if you're in Southern California, if you're in some of the valleys, today's going to be the warmest day that we have had this month, and could be the warmest we have in a long, long time. We are likely to see daytime records today, temperature or high temperature records to be tested in a lot of locations, because this ridge that is just to our east. If we got the downside, the descending flow or northwesterly flow, probably be more of a cooler day because we have more colder advection. But since we're on the the southwesterly or the ascending node of the ridge, the westerly side of it, we're going to get a lot of warm air advection today, and that's continuing into tomorrow. So that's why today you're stepping outside and you're wondering why it is really warm today. That's why, because we have a lot of the warm air advection of this jet. So going forward now, you can see how this jet really extends. Look at this. This goes clean into Southern California and Central California over the next 4 days. So what that means is, well, we're going to have a lot of rainfall and a lot of wind dynamics to work with, because we have this very strong NPJ that is extended well into California. Usually during the La Nina pattern, our NPJ, or the North Pacific jet, is usually more over here. So it usually kind of favors this area. Let's actually back it out. And in a La Nina situation, we would favor a lot of split flow, a lot of undercutting, or not really undercutting, but a lot of split here in the flow. And then you would get more southwesterly flow over British Columbia, and that usually would favor otherwise a lot of ridging. Given the averages that we've seen over the last 5 to 10 years, it seems to favor that configuration lately, where we have a lot of ridging. Usually a classic La Nina pattern, you get more northwesterly flow over here and bringing cooler temperatures and some rainfall. and you get a more variable North Pacific jet over Southern California. In this case, we have a La Nina, so that means we're seeing the extension to this jet clearly 160 knots at 200 millibars. If we go to 500 millibars, it's even stronger than that, actually about 120 knots or so. That's pretty intense, and that's going to really get some big storms, or a couple of big ones headed right for us through, at least right now at this point, we're thinking probably Wednesday into Thursday. That's the first sequence of impulses of weather. And then we have a second impulse of moisture and enhancement to atmospheric river moisture on Sunday through Wednesday next week. So we have kind of two big opportunities here for California to really make up for the whiplash that we have had thus far. Yeah, we've had rain, of course. January, not the driest winter on record, but we are kind of slacking behind climatology here. And it's going to be important of how much rainfall in the first half of this storm we can squeeze out on the last day of January to see where we're at as far as January precipitation versus climatology. Right now, we are slightly below normal, but this storm here that's coming in should change that around. But that leads us now into February of how much we can see then, and it looks like we could see quite a bit. So there's really no problem at seeing below average rainfall in at least a 2-week period over California, and it's all because of this pattern really setting up. So as we zoom in here on what is making this storm very strong and dynamic, well, for one thing, we have a very strong, very powerful 500 millibar jet. This is at 18,000 feet, so at around 115 to 120 knots. It's very strong, okay? If we look at 300 millibars, we're looking at 190 knot jets, so that's pretty extreme. And when you even look at flow at 10,000 feet, we're clearly at, say, 80 knots. So once this gets in, what I'm looking for here is dynamics. And what we have here is, of course, the trough that is going to be anchoring across the Pacific Northwest, of course. That's where they typically go. But because we have a lot of background flow here that is pretty enhanced from the west to the east, that's going to allow this trough to actually sink southeastward instead of it going like this, right? A lot of the troughs like to lift northward right before they hit California. Not this system. This is actually going to amplify as it gets closer to California instead. That's going to bring in some big impacts. So when we look at the left exit region here, we have a lot of dynamics. Divergent flow aloft, baroclinic ascent, a lot of forcing, wind dynamics at 700 millibars. We have that in place. 850 millibar winds, very strong too. So yeah, the coastal range mountains, the southwestern facing slopes of the Santa Cruz Mountains. If you're in Mount St. Helena, some of the northern, the Santa Rosa region, Bodega Bay, Point Reyes, as well as Ukiah. Some of those mountains up there could really squeeze out a lot of water. I'm not kidding, folks, when I say a lot of water. PWATs are going to be significant in themselves, right? We're looking at PWATs up to about 1 inch to 1.25 inches out of this system. But when you factor in the dynamical forcing and dynamical lift because of how strong this river is, yeah, I mean, look at that. That's pretty dynamic. So we're going to squeeze out a lot of water in the deep column of the atmosphere. And when you squeeze that all out, it can rain pretty hard. And some of the rainfall rates that we see here, what you're about to see, could exceed over 1/2 inch an hour, perhaps. That's enough to really put a lot of concerns on some of the small creeks, riverbeds as well as some street flooding because of this river aiming squarely for California. So when we take a look here at our PWatt values, so we're going to go to sigma, and yeah, you can see that this is pretty substantial. I mean, the PWatt values are nearly 4 times the normal along this river of moisture. This is not something that you typically see all the time. I'm not trying to say it's going to be a whiplash of intense rainfall where we're going to see life-threatening catastrophic flooding. Maybe in Northern California up here in Ukiah, we could very well see that, by the way. But the chances of that coming into the Bay Area, the Sacramento area, probably rather slim, because this is going to be a progressive system. This is not stalling out. But it's one of those things that it's a good thing that this is not stalling out, because if it did stall out, we would have more problems to deal with than what we're already going to be dealing with, let alone of a progressive system. So when we go forward here, the anomalous, it's definitely there. The signal is there, and when we look at our PWatt anomaly of normal, definitely in Southern California, we can actually, let's kind of time this through here. Let's go into the western sector. So we can see for California about 180 to maybe 250% of normal with PWatts, with moisture transport. And then eventually into Southern California here, approaching 250 down there even. So it's not just a Northern California event. This is going to spread southward into Southern California, including Tijuana in Mexico. That's just showing you the spatial coverage of how far south this is going to go. All right, and then that rolls through, and then just take note here, PWatt values, even into Thursday, are going to be above normal by about 120 to 140%, which means there's enough moisture and enough instability to generate more widespread showers and thunderstorms across much of California in the wake of the cold frontal passage on Wednesday into early Thursday morning. So it's not just that. We're going to have to contend with more heavy or more sporadic activity of showers and storms on Thursday before we dry out on Friday. And then comes another storm sequence early next week, perhaps. We're not done yet, folks. We're just getting started with this. All right. In fact, if we look at the European model, when we put this into motion, there's your cold front rolling through. Take note again, these dark green colors do indicate rainfall rates exceeding 3/4 of an inch an hour for Southern California. And just take note, still the splotchiness of green coverage here over the Central Valley, Southern California, right up in here, as well as Redding. Yeah, this is Thursday, and you're going to see a fairly widespread amount of thunderstorm activity, maybe some strong storms that could lead to more intense rainfall. And if we're dry, it would probably be on Saturday. Friday still looks to be a day with showers and storms, not as widespread and robust as what we'll see on Thursday, but still a day to watch. And then this system right here, folks, this one right down here, is the next one we gotta pay close attention to. Now, the PWatts with this are not as formidable as the current atmospheric river that are rolling through. Actually, they are almost as robust, but slightly lesser than Wednesday's storm system. Actually, in some sense, it might be even stronger. Actually, might be stronger in Southern California might get a pretty good dosing out of this. Never mind. So that's the system that we really have to pay close attention to. In fact, if we roll through this, There's a lot of green. Look at this. This is a very strong system at 983 millibars. Yeah, that's a very intense system. So, like I said, we get a reprieve on Saturday, really the driest day of the week, and then we get our next system rolling on through. And it's because of this NPJ extension. That is exactly what's behind all of this. We expect this to be seen with El Nino, with the extension of the NPJ well into California, helping to set dynamics for these systems to be pretty robust. And this system might be one of those that gets us into the middle of next week. So we're looking at rain on Sunday now. It looks like Sunday is a wet day, apparently, according to the latest European model. We'll look at other models here in a second. But Sunday looks wet. Certainly Monday looks to be a very wet day. And some very strong winds yet again. We got to be aware of that. This low right here is pretty strong. And then that continues well even into Tuesday, and might even finally dry out on Thursday. And so we got the first one, and then we got a second one. It takes two systems, folks, to change things around for California's winter whiplash of hydroclimate, right? So some systems might not be beneficial, but some storms could be more too beneficial, and I think we're gonna see the too beneficial variety of things with these storms. Come on, water, come out. There we go. So we got to really keep an eye on that. Now, as far as rainfall totals go, let's take a look at those. So we're going to roll through, I think this goes out, the first 90 hours. So that kind of takes us into this first storm. So these are 1 hour rainfall totals, and you can kind of think of this as the potential rainfall rate. So is this first storm actually probably not the best idea to use that, but some of these rainfall rates here, actually the European is probably more not as bullish. Some of them, the average that I've seen is more bullish. So we'll probably use the GFS and some other models. The Euro, again, is fairly aggressive, but it's a little on the generous side versus what the national blend of models that we're about to look at here shows. So we can see rainfall rates exceeding 0.6 of an inch of an hour in the coastal range mountains of, say, the San Mateo coast down into central Big Sur. Big Sur could see rainfall rates actually almost an inch an hour. That is pretty phenomenal. Okay, an inch an hour, that's taken pretty seriously, folks. All right, when we look at the national blend of models, that's actually not very, hasn't rendered all the way. But look at these rainfall totals. In a 12-hour period, I want to be clear on this, folks. 12-hour rainfall totals here could exceed 3 inches, 3 to 4 inches in the North Bay coastal mountains here. And not to mention, up here near Ukiah and Fort Bragg, might even see 4 inches per 12 hours. That is a lot of moisture being focused in a narrow corridor, and that's what happens when you get these ARs rolling through. And then, of course, for Southern California, you might see 1.5 inches to a couple of inches in a couple of hours, or not in a couple of hours, in 12 hours. Hopefully, I didn't scare you all there. And so that could really bring a lot of moisture to the region. Now, when we look at previous model runs, definitely pretty aggressive with rainfall totals anywhere between about 1.6 to 2 inches now over much of central and northern California. Bakersfield might get about 0.8 of an inch, maybe close to an inch, but really north of Fresno, even Fresno might get a little more than an inch. but a lot of rainfall. And that's not it. When we look at our second system, this is pretty concerning. This is not a hype forecast. This is from the National Blend of Models, the NBM, the Super Blend. Think of every high-res model, think of every global model, think of every ensemble model. We're looking at, I'm just estimating, this is kind of combining over 150 members, or even 200 members that run the National Blend of Models, or the Super Blend. And take a look at these rainfall totals. These rainfall totals are within 10 days. All right, 10 days, folks. You heard me correct on that. 10-day rainfall totals. In the mountains of the Sierra here, you could see more than 8 inches, maybe even 10 inches. That's 1 inch a day on average. Even so, we get a couple of dry days in there. The long-term or the short-term or the medium-term average, the 10-day average here is 1 inch per day. Some of the higher elevations here, like the Big Sur, Point Sur area, even for Southern California, you could squeeze out 14 inches of rainfall in a 10-day period. That is why the Weather Prediction Center, as what we're about to see here, is indicating that there is a slight risk, even a moderate risk, for flash flooding and heavy rainfall for these areas because of how much rainfall is going to fall in a rather short amount of time. Okay, so that's kind of what I wanted to show you all. Now, what about the winds? Of course, let's look at the European model first with the first storm, then we'll look at some other models here in a second. So the first system rolling through, we're going to have a sure bet of winds. The European is more, I wouldn't say underdoing it, but it's more conservative with its wind forecast. Some of the other models, like I'm about to show you, the GFS, the Canadian model, and the Icon, are going pretty bullish with the wind speeds with this first system, enough to where I think there could be wind advisories. There's already some out for the Bay Area, but even some for the Central Valley would not even surprise me. North of I-80 if we get a high wind warning out of this, because winds could gust over 60 to maybe 65 miles an hour, perhaps. Would not surprise me at all by that. More like in the range probably of most certainty of 45 to maybe 55 or so across the Sacramento Valley. Excuse me. Don't want to sneeze. My allergies are back up and working today because it's a little warm. So that's the first system that rolls through. And then again, we get a little reprieve, like a little before our next system comes in. And we can see that well-defined. By the way, we have a defined or very organized warm front right here, right? So pretty dynamic situation. We have a cold front here, and then we have a trowel back in here. So this is a fairly organized system for early next week, and that's why I think that's a system that might have a little bit higher potential of bringing more heavy rainfall impacts to the region. And look at these winds. These are some serious winds along the coast. 40 to maybe almost 50 miles an hour of winds nearly at the surface. That is very strong across our region, and this has been uptrending. In fact, if we look at the previous run, you can see how it's not even there, and then it gets to be here, and now it's even closer. This is not a situation that you do not want to end up seeing for California, because there's going to be a lot more wind to deal with. Another round, maybe a 50 to 60 mile an hour wind gusts along the coast, maybe another 40 to 50 mile an hour wind gusts and down across the valley. So another big system that we might have to contend with here, and pressure's pretty low with this. We'll have to see on how this all moves along. If the track is even closer here, the impacts could be much more significant. If this is further offshore, we have seen the models trend a little bit closer to the central coast of California with next week's storm system, which again could bring us a renewed risk of heavy rainfall impacts. And in fact, that one might have the highest potential in central California, right in here for Monday next week, and might even see 3 inches of rainfall, perhaps for the Bay Area. For the Central Valley, another 1 to 2 inches per 24-hour rainfall accumulations. But in a 48-hour time frame, we might see about 3 inches. This is the storm that could be a big deal, all right? A wind advisory has been issued for my location now. So I'm guessing for the Sacramento area. Okay, wow, they're not going for a flood watch for my area. I thought they would, but we definitely have, yeah, I don't know why they have not issued a wind advisory yet. Oh, they did. Wow, they have not issued a wind advisory for San Joaquin County. That is, oh no, they have, never mind. They have issued a wind advisory. Very funny that it is not on the map here. Oh, and they just did it. I might have gotten it right on cue. Right on cue. They just issued one. Yeah, you did mention that, Aaron, that they did issue a wind advisory. So we are now under one. Doesn't surprise me if they issue that even further south, but that would be a handoff to the Hanford office. So no high wind watches, fortunately, out on this one, but definitely wind advisories. That is a granted guarantee. High-end wind advisory, I want to be specific about that. A high-end wind event is certainly expected. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be a storm. If we look at the wind advisory, yeah, see, up to 55 miles an hour expected. That is for the northern Sacramento Valley. Oops, let me actually zoom out on this. There we go. This is for the northern Sacramento Valley, all the way, and this includes the northern San Joaquin Valley, like Stockton. I want to be specific here. So this includes Redding, Red Bluff, Chico, Orville, Marysville, Yuba City, Sacramento, Fairfield, and Stockton, Modesto, and Paradise. So even in Modesto, we could see 55-mile-an-hour wind gusts out of this storm system. It's actually pretty significant. And so we're going to have a lot of wind, and we're going to have a lot of impacts. What time does that wind... Okay, it goes in effect at 10 a.m. until 10 a.m. on the 1st of February. So it is going to be a big deal. Yeah, wow. Definitely a storm. Definitely a storm, and I'm excited. Storm 2? I thought you would be concerned about Storm 1, Michael. I think Storm 1... Actually, Storm 1 doesn't look all... Well, depending on what model you really want to stare at, depends on your favorability. The Canadian model is more aggressive, in some sense. Look at this. Might even see 4 inches of rain. How about that in San Francisco? And then Storm 2... Oh, there it is. Okay. Storm 2. Actually, wow, we might get 4 inches. Hold on a second. I never looked at this model this morning. The Canadian model, that is. Oh, yeah, this is definitely a system we got to really watch. So, yeah, Storm 2 has the potential. Again, depending on where the track of that is, the European is very aggressive on that. As you can see there. Definitely a system we'll have to watch. But in the short term, we definitely have a lot of wind I'm surprised we don't have a flood watch issued out, though. For our area, I thought they would have issued one. Interesting. Interesting. So now, I wanted to show you all something else from the high-res model guidance that some of you probably have seen already. This is the WRF Weather Research Forecast. I think that's what that means, and it's from PG&E that runs these models. And so if we go forward, we can see how much rainfall might accumulate. And this is through Friday. All right, so if, again, thunderstorms take into consideration here, Stockton might see 2 inches, Sacramento 2.5 inches of rain. Look at Suisun City, 3 inches of water. And look at this, San Francisco might see as much as 3 inches, which seems pretty possible given the Canadian and the GFS models both agreeing on that. Look at this. This up here is 7 inches of rainfall, even 8 inches in the Santa Cruz Mountains. The North Bay Mountains and valleys here could see even 8 inches of rainfall. So right in here is where I'm pretty concerned, and even down here in the mountains could certainly have rainfall amounts exceeding 4 inches. And it's enough to cause flooding. And then, of course, for the foothills of the Sierra here, might see 3+ inches of water accumulation. But Tracy is getting a bit shadowed, as always, that patch of purple. Yeah, but that patch of purple, you'll probably get about 1 inch of rain, Aaron. But again, this is one model. We cannot rely on one specific numerical model. This is the high-res forecast. You're going to get rain. That is a guarantee. There's no arguing about that. How much rain? It seems to you're going to get 1 inch. You're going to get at least 1 inch of rainfall out of this storm system. That's pretty well said and done at this point, I do believe. Winds. Now, wind gusts on this model. I want to make sure I got the latest model output, and I do. So when we look forward here, by the way, if you guys are wondering what this is all up here, that's 85 plus mile-an-hour wind gusts right off of Eureka, as well as Fort Bragg. I mean, that is pretty extreme, to say the least. And right along the coast here, there could be winds gusting 75 miles an hour. This is from the WRF model. I want to be clear about this. Okay, this is one of those high-resolution models that we look at, okay? And this is pretty aggressive right down here along the coast. Maybe 75 mile-an-hour wind gusts down there. And then when we forward this through, not too optimistic for the Central Valley with wind gusts, but between about 45 to 55 miles an hour is probably a sure bet. This will render, actually, if we look at, let's actually look at the 06Z runs. This could bounce all over the place, depending on what model run you look at. And so if we kind of bring this forward, we can see it was a little stronger in some areas. But of course, we will find out a lot more of how this is all going to pan out once we get closer. All right, David, can you go south a little to Kern County? Yeah, sure. Kern County. Yes, I know everything in California, but some of the counties I don't. Okay, so that's towards Bakersfield. So I don't know if this map covers. Let's see here. Does this cover SoCal? Okay, it does cover SoCal. That's good. Good to know. Let's go to rainfall amounts. Go to that. So here it is. So Bakersfield is right here, Kern County. So this is Kern County right in here. You get the idea. Okay, so if we go forward, Bakersfield might get about a half an inch. But again, this is a high-res model. Okay, high-res models don't do very... because when you try to resolve the equations, you know, it's very complicated. But I would say Bakersfield could get up to about 3/4 of an inch of rain. I don't think you're going to see an inch out of this, unfortunately. The second system might be a whole different story. But just to be aware, look at Southern California here. Look at some of the mountains. Might see 4 inches. 4 inches of rainfall. And even some of the southern Sierras here could get 4+ inches of rainfall, or in the form of snow at this point. So total snowfall accumulations here, this is how much snow you might end up seeing for the higher elevations. Look at this. So this is, I believe, this is water equivalent of snow. So there's going to be a lot of snow up here in the higher elevations. And maybe some snow in the in the lower elevations of the Bay Area, you know, once the colder air arrives. But I don't think there will be a lot. Maybe anywhere between maybe an inch, a dusting, down to like 2,500 feet. The air mass is going to be somewhat modified because of the Pacific air. It's what usually happens back here across the West. All right, so I just got a new update from the National Weather Service. We have gusts up to 50 miles an hour here. So, yeah, definitely right in line with the high wind or the wind advisory that is expected. And again, like I said, that second system, all eyes are on deck on that one. We're going to have to watch on how that pans out. Interestingly enough, on the ensemble has trended further south with this, which I'm really, really surprised about because the deterministic runs have remained pretty consistent about this one. But should that occur, boy, for Southern California, in about 4 days, could get about 5 inches of rainfall. So that's that. Any questions, folks? Any questions at all about this system? But I did want to show you all right here is where your strongest jet stream is right now. You can see the North Pacific jet really screaming. Hi, Sunny or Cheesy Weather. How are you? Yeah, so that's what we're looking at is that strong jet stream. And of course, here's your rainfall. By the way, this is the national blend of models. Okay. Oh, no, this is not the national blend. This is the national blend. Oopsie doopsie, whoopsie coopsie on that one. Here's the national blend. This is the super blend. Okay. This is probably by far your most accurate forecast, the most reliable because it's blending everything together. What is a good solidified forecast, right? And that's what we're seeing here. Now, it is worth noting for this first system, if we go to percentile of precipitation, okay, it is worth noting the worst case scenario virtually means that this is the 90th percentile, that everyone gets 2+ inches of rainfall. Actually, if we look at the Canadian seems to handle this a bit better as far as precipitation coverage, right? Actually might not do it as well, because it depends on how you interpret this. The 10th percentile, by the way, is at least amounts. If we look at the GEFS ensemble, we're also looking at least amounts. So a good through at least Saturday, some areas or most areas would likely see at least an inch. The 90th percentile, though, is 2 inches, which means the worst case scenario versus the at least scenario, or the more generous scenario, if that is. It's another way for forecasters to kind of see, what if we added more rain, or what if there's more forcing and more p-watts that get involved? What could the worst case scenario be? And so that's why you look at different percentiles here. And this is from the GEFS, the ensemble, the Global Ensemble Forecasting System. What is concerning about Storm 2, David, is possible of stalling while slamming California. Yeah, that's what I've noticed too, Michael Guerrero. I've been saying a CAD event for North Carolina to Maryland, and it's trending by the... what do you mean by CAD or something like that? We're going to actually look at the lower 48 really quickly here. Yeah, there is going to be some big-time rainfall for the deep south from that first storm system. So this is going to be kind of going right across because of that jet stream. And then it is going to be moving. It's not going to be impacting Maryland at all. Actually, Maryland is not going to see any rain or anything for the entire 10-day forecast, according to the European model. So you're not seeing any rain. How about that? Zero, nada. Maybe at best 1/100th of an inch. So get ready, cheesy weather. You're going to wish for rain, and you're not going to get any rain. According to the deterministic, the ensemble has it pretty dry for your area. Less than 1/10 of an inch of rainfall. All right, so when is it hitting Los Angeles? Tuesday or Wednesday, please? All right, so let's go to Southern California. I'm going to look at one specific model. There are different outcomes, okay? We're not exactly sure how this is going to set up, but we do know by early next week there will be some sort of wet weather. Okay, so the first system going to slam Southern California. That is a guarantee. We see it. The models see it. We're even seeing it on satellite. It's going to happen. Okay, that's on Thursday. Okay, which, by the way, things get there later. So most or all of Wednesday for Southern California will be dry. Okay, just keep that in mind. So no rainfall to worry about. So you have all day tomorrow and you have all day Wednesday to get prepared for this. Okay. And then you're just kind of seeing showers from time to time on Thursday and Friday. And then here comes the second system. So if we look at the early onset of this, might see that by Sunday. Okay. And then, though, depending on how the warm front lifts and how things kind of play out, you might get a brief lull before the main front rolls through. So really, on Sunday afternoon, on the 4th of February, through about the 5th. So it's going to be a 24-hour, maybe 36-hour period here of really intense rainfall that is possible for Southern California. Okay, and just please take note now, this is one model from the European, but it's pretty bullish. It's pretty bullish. I'll be honest with you all about that. More bullish than the GFS, but look at even the GFS. Look how aggressive this is. I mean, the GFS has it. the Canadian has it, and the European model has this. So we're pretty sure for early next week, we're going to get some pretty impressive rainfall totals. Now, where will those be? It remains to be determined, because where this low goes is who's going to get the heaviest rainfall. So right now, if you want to put your mind and your emphasis on the 12Z run, be my guest. I can't tell you what to do, right? But all I can tell you is I would not rely on one model run and look at past model run data. So on this run specifically, very, very intense rainfall rates, potentially well over an inch an hour. If we look at this, okay, you can see the darkest green colors. That's the heaviest rainfall. That's off the charts in terms of intensity. And you can see how that surface low moves through. Let's look at the upper dynamics on that system. So we can see here, so of course, there is your first system, right? There's the geopotential height below average for California. Look at this zonal flow, by the way. Look how just strong this is. Really cutting across. I mean, pretty much cutting like butter through the atmosphere. Very smooth. Not much rippliness in the flow. And then watch what happens. Ridge builds over to the desert southwest, and then look at what that allows us is to get more rainfall. And you can see that really playing out. The second system looks windier for my area than the first one, according to the Euro. Again, Aaron, that's one model run. You got to look at the national. I would look at the national blend of models. Let's actually take a look at that. How about that, my guy? Let's take a look at what the national blend of models look like. So the national blend of models still favors more of like Stockton area on the NBM forecast, with wind gusts at least over 30 miles an hour. But if you look at the Euro specifically, let's look at that. There's Tracy. Tracy's right here. The circle that I put in. Oops, there we go. It looks windier at first, though. This little glocket of winds move through, and then that's it. Which, by the way, that would be 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Which, that's a little patch of wind, so that there's a lot of uncertainty in that. I mean, you can't... I bet you if we look at the last model run, still windier than the first one, but all you need to know is that there's going to be some sort of breezes across that area. What's up, Ryan? People in California should prepare for possible power outages. Yeah. Oh, for sure. I'm still convinced on why the National Weather Service did not go for a high wind watch before they went for a high wind warning. I mean, I think it's going to be really bad. It's going to be pretty intense, I think. It's pretty serious. Actually, you know what? Let me actually... Oh, man. My nose. Sorry, you guys. I have allergies. You gotta bear with me for that. Man, just to my east, they want gusts up to 51 miles an hour. But that's generous because we have to wait for more model data to come out. Because yesterday at this time, it was only showing winds up to 19 or 20. See for the Sacramento area where it's going to be at. Not as strong. So for like your area, Michael, it shows winds of 24 miles an hour. So it's not going to be as windy for your area as it is for me. Haha. I'm just kidding. But yeah, this is a look at the pattern, and look at that. Pretty. You can see the jet stream. So I did answer your question, Sharon. They can upgrade it to a high wind warning from advisory. I've never seen it happen though, Michael. So that's why I don't think they're going to. I just don't see them upgrading it. And there's going to be a couple of big systems rolling through. Wow. All right. Well, any questions? Any questions before I actually head out? I actually want to look at the Climate Prediction Center because I have not looked at that today. Yup, there it is. On the 4th, we're at 80% above normal. So 4th, that is right on, smack dab for Sunday into Thursday next week. That covers that event pretty well, actually. And like I said, look at the below average rainfall chances for the east, cheesy weather. So you're not going to see any rainfall. For the next 2 weeks. So there is some confidence in that. And it's going to be warmer than average. And there it is. Moderate risk for heavy rainfall for our area. I'm excited for that one. And look at the composites. Wow. The 6th through the 10th, heavy rainfall. Wow, through the 10th now. That is all of next week. That's all of next week. Hey, Butter Dog. How are you doing? Well, it's good for us because we have had like 3 weeks of rain everywhere. That's, yeah, good. That's some of the good, that's at least some good news. But let's see how you are doing for the season to date. Let's see if it's truly good over there. Yeah, you are barely above average. Because you're in the Maryland area. Cheesy weather. So, you're barely above normal. You're like a half an inch above average for this time of the year. Oh, no, wait, no, hold on. Never mind. That's 90-day averages. Never mind. Here it is. Yeah, you're doing very good. Never mind. You are... Dang, you are really far above normal. Yeah, you don't need any more rainfall at all. You're 225% of normal for this time of the year. Yeah, you are actually good. You're in good standing. Doing good. Just got back from classes. Nice, Butter Dog. Yeah, Michael Guerrero. Yeah, I showed you that. That there is a high risk right here for heavy rainfall. Dang, that is just crazy that there's going to be a high risk of heavy rainfall. Which, by the way, again, I want to make it clear, this slight risk, see this slight risk, everyone? I want to point this out. Right in here, this high risk, that is through the 12th of February. So the first half of February looks to end up being pretty wet for us. And then, of course, for the Deep South, through the 12th of February, the 8th and the 12th look really, really wet. So definitely a lot of rainfall and snowfall and strong winds from the west. Boy, it's going to be a storm. It's going to be a true storm. California currently slightly above normal for rainfall thanks to last storm. Well, depending on what observations site you look at, I think Sacramento Airport's slightly below average for this time of the year. But looking good, cold and wet for the West. I can't ask for any more better news than what we have. But I'm glad to see, though, that the eastern seaboard is wetter than average because it's going to be dry for a couple of weeks. It is going to be dry for a couple of weeks. So, well, that's typical with El Nino. We kind of thought that this profile would kind of shape up. Anyways. Last time California had a very wet February was 2019. That is actually correct. It's been a while. It has been a long time. And get this, Michael Guerrero, if this pans out, fingers crossed, we get 2 seasons in a row, we get above average rainfall. Snowfall, I don't know about that one. That doesn't look too promising. However, though, if those storms are cold enough that we're seeing here, we might get enough snow to at least get us to near average. Yeah, 150 inches of snow for the Sierras. That is pretty remarkable. That is actually very much of snow. And 132 inches. Canadian ensemble. Oops, nope, not that. The Canadian model. Let's see what that shows. Not as much snow in the next 10 days. So the euro really bullish on the euro. Yeah, February has been dismal in California in the past years. February 2020 and 2022. Yeah, really dry. Not this go-around. I'm telling you, not this go-around. Thanks to our El Nino. Oh boy, I'm looking at this for the... Look at the rainfall totals, Michael, on the euro. The next 10 days. Look at this. That's through the 6th of February. That is through the middle of next week. That is crazy. Those are some serious rainfall totals, actually. That's going to help. That's going to really help. So that's about 3 inches of rain. First 5 days of rainfall, 3 to 4 inches. That's good. That will bring February to near average already. If that pans out. So, yeah. Well, anyways, folks, I think I'm going to call it a day. There's not really much to talk about other than I'm probably going to end up live streaming this. I definitely think I will. And if my grandma lets me, we're actually going to be or weather chasing this via vehicle. How about that? What's up, Sarah S? How are you? It would be great if some of the rain actually makes it to New Mexico. As always, we're dry as a bone over here. We're the land of wind and no rain. Yeah, let me actually look at your forecast really quick, Sarah. On New Mexico. I can see why you're saying it's dry as a bone. Oh, that's not good at all. Golly word. Geez, you are not getting a lot of rainfall. At all. That is... But you are above normal, though. According to the Climate Prediction Center, you are above average, so there is some chances that you will have above average rainfall or snowfall. So, with that being said, I do think it's... It's going to be near average. That's guaranteed. You're very welcome, Sarah. Let's see what about the winds for your area. I want to see the winds. Oh, yeah, you're going to get westerly winds. Actually, pretty strong. Look at that. Wow. Really strong westerly winds. San Diego is above average, I believe, from the last storm. Yeah, actually, you know what? Since you guys are special, I'm actually going to do something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to... Oops. So I'm going to go over to... here. Oh, not that. Let's go over to local. And then what I can do is look up Sacramento, look up accumulation graphs, and we can go from the water year. So we're going to go from the 10th of the month to now. Okay, so this is the accumulation graph for Sacramento. And see, we are below average by a little bit. We are. But with this storm coming in, I don't think we'll have a problem. Based on what we're seeing. We're going to be above normal. And then with that second storm of next week, that should get us well ahead of normal. Stockton. Let's look at for Stockton. So again, the 23rd. There. We'll actually go through the 31st. It's the last day. And right now, Stockton is slightly ahead of normal by a little bit. Not by much, but by a little margin of about almost a quarter of an inch. So Sacramento is drier just by a little bit. But that should be made up because of our next double storms that are coming in. Let's go to San Diego, but for that, I have to go to a different weather office. Oh, winter storm watches. Wow, they're on top of it now, all of a sudden. See, they're only calling for moderate rainfall intensity rates for this first storm system. And then look at, for Sunday next week for right now, look at the boxes that are filled in. Still light, if any. So that means there's lower confidence for Sunday, Monday next week for that rain. Just so you're aware. So if we go to the San Diego area and look for our accumulation graphs for the water year, same date. Let's go to the 31st. And I'm sure they are above average. And yeah. Oops, wait, no, this is the wrong. Why did I thought I entered it in correctly. So San Diego is close. It's also close to above normal. It's a little a bit above normal, but it's not significantly above normal. However, that should be made up very quickly. But wow, look at that rainfall total. Jeez. Very dry and all of a sudden really wet. All right, you guys. Well, I'm going to head off. I think that covers it pretty well at the moment. I'll keep you guys updated on this as this remains a threat to our area. I might have another video out on this. Well, more likely for the entire United States. Oops, I just hit my mic. Hopefully, I did not scare you all there. I'll have a video out tomorrow. Looks like I have the time for that. But I'll be going over the entire United States as I typically do, but most of that will be focused on the West. All right, but I think that's going to do it, folks. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you back here tomorrow.